Hey everyone, Jacob Morgan here. Today I wanted to talk about how do you build a good relationship with your manager, with your boss, with your leader, with whoever you're working with inside of your company that is technically higher up than you. Boss, manager, leader, again, we all know who these people are. And so I'm going to talk about three things today, three things that I have seen to be quite effective when it comes to building these better relationships with your boss, your manager, or your leader. Before I jump into those three things, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy this kind of content, I'm going to be talking about business advice, the future of work, leadership, employee experience, just a bunch of stuff that I've learned over the past 10, 15 plus years. So three things that I want to talk about today are these three: open and clear communication, empathy, and remembering that your manager equals human, which is something that we oftentimes forget, let's be honest. All right, let's start off with the first one, open and clear communication. And so I find that this is a huge factor when it comes to building a good relationship with your manager. And probably the best way that you can build this kind of open and clear communication is to make sure that you get time one-on-one with your manager. And this is also something that I know managers and leaders around the world are trying to practice and implement more. So you want to make sure that you get time with your manager to have these one-on-one discussions where you can ask questions, get clarification, and get feedback. So that is absolutely going to be essential. But a part of that also means that when you are having discussions with your manager, don't just nod your head and say yes to everything if deep down inside you are unsure or you have a question. I've worked with people like this. I was probably one of these types of people early on in my career where my manager would come over, they would explain everything to me, and I would just say, yeah, totally get it. And then the manager would walk away and I would just be like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. So you want to avoid that. Don't be scared to ask for clarification. Don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to say that you are unsure about something or that you might need help with something, because that is going to be essential. So make sure you have that clear, that open, that honest dialogue and communication. And again, one of the best ways that I can think of to do this is to make sure that you can schedule one-on-one time with your manager. If you're able to do it every week, that's fine. I have regular one-on-one calls with various members of my team. Sometimes they last 10 minutes, sometimes they last 30 minutes. But these things are important because they ask questions, I ask questions, and it keeps us all on the same page. So make sure you can get that in place. The second thing, practice a little bit of empathy. Empathy is crucial. Empathy basically means that you are able to take the perspectives of somebody else. So if you have a manager, for example, who comes into work one day angry and upset because you didn't meet a goal or you didn't meet a deadline, instead of getting defensive about it and saying, oh my God, this manager is such a jerk, try to practice a little bit of empathy and try to understand, well, you know what? Maybe Bob, maybe Tina, they're under a lot of pressure. Maybe their managers are breathing down their neck. And they're so stressed out that maybe that is why they are coming to me. So try to put yourself in your manager's shoes for a little bit and practice a little bit of empathy to see where they are coming from. I find this to be extremely helpful. One of the areas, and I saw an example of this recently, is an employee who wanted flexible work implemented inside of her organization. And the manager who was responsible for this was basically like, no way, it's not going to happen. Like, I need you in the office all the time. And at first it's very tempting to say, well, okay, this manager is just being rude. They don't care about me. They're just a bad manager. But she actually had this open conversation with her manager, and she found out that the reason why he didn't want to allow any kind of flexible work programs is because he was a little bit scared himself. He didn't know how to communicate with a virtual team. He didn't know how to lead a virtual team. He thought he was going to lose control. He thought productivity was going to slow down. He thought there wouldn't be any collaboration. So he was genuinely just scared and worried about how he would handle this. And so through open communication and dialogue, they were able to set some clear ground rules and some guidelines. And sure enough, a flexible work arrangement was able to be implemented. So practicing that little bit of empathy will help having these conversations so you really understand where your manager is coming from. And the third thing that I want to encourage you to do, and this is also super helpful, understand that your manager is a human just like you. So what do I mean by that? It means that your manager also gets stressed. Your manager also gets burned out. Your manager also gets happy and excited just like you do. And sometimes inside of organizations, we forget that managers are people. We either view them as these kind of mythical unicorns, these amazing creatures who have all their stuff together. They know everything. They can do everything. Or sometimes we view managers as these clueless people who don't know anything. But either way, you need to view your manager as a human because they have the same feelings, they have the same emotions, they're going through a lot of the same things that either you're going through or have gone through. And that ties back into this concept of empathy and trying to understand their perspective, their point of view, where they're coming from. And so when you do this, just put yourself in their shoes and try to identify a point during your career or during your life where you have felt the same way as your manager. And try to, mentally go through that exercise and you'll be able to exactly see where your manager is coming from. So I think if you're able to implement these 3 tips, open and clear communication, practice a little bit of empathy, and understand that your manager is a human just like you, that you will be able to build a better relationship with that manager. And I've seen this work in many organizations around the world. And, again, I have seen this firsthand. And this actually worked for me when I was working full-time for organizations many, many years ago. And I gotta say, it works. Now, it doesn't mean that it's gonna be a perfect solution for everybody. There are indeed some people where you guys just don't click, you don't get along, and maybe it's time to look for another company or to get transferred to work for another team, for another manager. But before you do that, make sure you try these steps first. Again, if you like these types of videos, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing these all the time. Every week you will get something like this either delivered to your inbox or to the YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.